And when people start managing their intentional thoughts, when they manage their emotional states, when they trade survival and limiting emotions for elevated emotions, and you teach them a practical tool on how to get back into a state of more wholeness, they're starting to demonstrate a level of self-love. And we see what that looks like in the heart. It gets highly organized and highly coherent. We see it, what it happens in the brain. It gets aroused, and the arousal is not fear, and the arousal is not pain, and the arousal is not aggression. The arousal is this state of ecstasy or this state of bliss, and it's coming from within the person. Now, this is a important point, because now they realize that there's nothing out there that they thought that they want could make them feel the way they're feeling when they start managing their inner world, right? So you start seeing that people start feeling like they're so whole they no longer want anything. And that tends to be the paradox of how their dreams actually happen, because now they're no longer creating from separation or polarity. In fact, they're creating from wholeness, and wholeness means that it already has happened on a biological level for people. So learning how to create from wholeness then creates this crazy thing where you feel so amazing. You feel so in love with life. You feel so grateful to be alive that you want other people to feel the way you feel. And the only way you can do that is to give. And the act of giving actually creates more of that feeling, which creates more of the chemicals for you to want to give. And all of a sudden you start creating a species of people that are really interested in caring for one another and being kind to one another and loving one another and supporting one another and informing one another and healing one another. It's just what the empathy of the species really is about, you know? So by the end of our week longs, many people we can see on their physiological measurements are very, very coherent and very orderly, and they're filled with love. They're filled with a love of life. They're filled with a joy for existence. They're filled with just the gratitude of being alive. And so if we could teach people a model of healing, and we can show them that there's research that shows that it's not matter that's emitting a field of energy. It's really that the field of energy is creating matter. So if you change the field, you change the hologram in three-dimensional reality. So we build a model of understanding that then takes the person's work from the entire week and builds a bigger model of application. But instead of it having it be about their wealth or about their new relationship or their new career, it's about someone else. And now they are going to give life to another person's life, and they're going to love another person into life. And they understand that they would have to get beyond their associations to everything physical and known. They practice that all week. They've learned how to create from the field instead of from matter. They're going to have to open their heart, because once energy makes it to the heart, it begins to produce a non-local effect, a connecting effect. It also is a frequency of more wholeness and oneness, which it takes to heal. And they're going to build a bigger model and apply all of that to another person. And they're going to have it be about them. And so they understand the science of all of it. And we cut people loose. And if you asked Joe Dispenza a year ago, if he thought he would be seeing things that he's seeing now, I probably would have said maybe once or twice in my lifetime. But now we have so many universities, so many scholars, so many scientists caught up in the phenomena of what's going on, because our community is getting really good at it, and they're hitting targets, and they're changing people's lives dramatically. And you would think, oh yeah, now they can say that they're a healer and they can, go out and make money and heal. They don't do that. They do it for the mission of what it feels like to be on a call with a mother whose child had no attention and no consciousness, never connected with her siblings, and all of a sudden is smiling and trying to talk to her siblings. And you're on the call, and everybody that was a healer is celebrating this person's change. And the emotion that you feel from that is nothing other than this divine state of love. Yes. And then that new experience is greater than any sports car, any wardrobe, any drug. This is something different, and they do it for that feeling. And when that feeling happens, then they have to give again. And so they're moving closer to the divine every time they heal somebody. And so we're doing a lot of data collection right now on our remote healings. We have IRB medical studies that we're partnering with universities, and we're measuring people's before and after subjective experiences. And we're also doing DNA sampling before and after their healings. And we're having the certain groups wear HRV monitors to regulate heart coherence, and the healee we're measuring to see if they're going into heart coherence at the same exact time as the healers. And so, we're doing all these studies to really change the conversation really in medicine. And so it's a pretty exciting time. And my goodness, there have been so many wonderful healings that have taken place in our community. Well, let's just assume in the principle that your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's listening to this program has created the present personal reality called their life or your life, which means if you want to create a new personal reality, a new life, you're going to have to change your personality. Mm-hmm. And that means you're going to have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and decide if you still want to accept, believe, and surrender to that thought as if it's true, or do you want to actually have a different thought? So what thoughts do you want to change? And if you looked at how you spoke and how you behaved, if you complained, if you made excuses, if you felt sorry for yourself, if you mismanaged your time, whatever it is, and you didn't want to be that person any longer, if you could become conscious of those unconscious habits or behaviors, you would be in the process of change. And then if you said, listen, how do I finish my day? Do I finish my day feeling sad and tired and unhappy and suffering? Is that the emotions that I want to live by every day? No, I want to be happy. Well, I got to stop feeling unhappy then. So if a person took the time to write down a couple thoughts they wanted to change, a couple behaviors they would like to modify, and certain emotions that they would like to stay away from. The word meditation literally means to become familiar with. And those thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that have become attitudes or habits or emotional conditioning is just something that we've done so many times that it's automatic now. We're unconscious to them. So we have to become conscious of those unconscious states. And that is kind of breaking the habit of being the old self. So to know thyself is such an important element if you truly want to then make a change. And so then the next question would be, well, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? And if I put my attention and intention behind it, I could begin to install the neurological hardware. Keep practicing it, firing and wiring, and it becomes a software program. It becomes more automatic. That's the new voice in your head. You installed that. And then if you said, how do I want to be with my children? How do I want to be with my partner? How do I want to be at work? How do I want to be in traffic? How do I want to be when I'm by myself? And what would a great person do? What would love look like today? I don't know. What would it look like for me to master myself? And you sat down and closed your eyes and you rehearsed in your mind what you were going to do differently. The act of mental rehearsal begins to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like you already did it. Now the brain's no longer a record of the past. Now it becomes a map to the future. You're priming it to the future. Install the hardware and keep doing it, firing and wiring. The hardware becomes a software program. You automatically behave like that person. No magic there. You install the circuitry. Then if you said, well, look, I truly do want to be a happy person, and I do want to be in love with life, and I do want to feel worthy to receive things, and I do want to feel grateful. I'm done feeling suffering and pain and unhappiness. Then you'd have to practice actually feeling those feelings. There's no mystery there. You'd have to become familiar with those emotions, and you'd have to sit there and say, can I teach my body emotionally what my future self will feel like before I'm in? Because that's how you're going to become it. And if you keep trading those limited emotions for these other emotions, these new chemicals, it'll begin to become familiar to you, and you'll become familiar in thought, in act, and in feeling. And so if people took a little bit of time to be in the never-ending process of self-discovery of how we did in our day in terms of evolution, we could demystify the process, and people would begin to see changes in their life as a result of it. And that's why we do it. I mean, we shouldn't do it for any other reason than if we truly change, our life should change. And I think most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality. And many times it doesn't work. We literally have to become someone else.